Now you're watching Gearz, brought to you by Holley Performance Products. Fuel your passion. And Cornwell Tools, the choice of professionals.
You know, one of the great things about the automotive industry is that we are people of action. We like to do stuff with our hands. We like to work on our cars. We like to build our own cars. We like to go to shows. We like to go to races. We like to go four-wheeling. We like to terrorize anybody that thinks a vehicle should stay stock. And we like competition. I mean, a car guy is going to be the first person that's going to call you out if they think their car's faster than yours. I mean, that's where racing started.
Yeah, but looking all over for you, man. Didn't nobody tell you I was looking for you?
Guys would call each other out at stoplights and hurl insults back and forth.
Hey, you're supposed to be the fastest thing in the valley, man, but that can't be your car. It must be your mama's car. I'm sort of embarrassed to be this close to you.
You call that a paint job, but it's pretty ugly. I bet you got to sneak up on the pumps just to get a little air in your tire.
The goal was to hopefully race for money outside of town. The winner not only kept the money, but also gained bragging rights and sometimes a few girlfriends along the way.
Car's so neat, we're going to give you our special prize. You want me to give it to you?
Hey, sweetheart, if the prize is you, I'm a ready teddy.
Of course, things have changed a bit since those early days of racing, but what hasn't changed is that competitive spirit, that urge to call somebody out to meet you in a head-to-head competition and see who's the fastest. And if you have a diesel truck, there is an event that will allow you to do just that. It's called the Ultimate Callout Challenge. Check it out. The Ultimate Callout Challenge, or UCC for short, is a diesel-only event that brings together the best diesel competitors from across the country into a 3-day competition that's designed to find out who has the best all-around diesel truck. The competition revolves around 3 events that are designed to challenge the design and engineering of each vehicle. The first is the drag race. And since there are several diesel drag racing events going on in conjunction with the UCC event, you never quite know what is going to be pulling up in the line with the diesel engine. If you've never been to diesel drags, you're missing out, because the sights, the sounds, and the smells are completely different than gas-powered drag racing. But the power output and the times they run are astounding. Even more so when you consider that most of these guys are running a truck body, which has the aerodynamics of a brick. The challenge in diesel drags is to get the turbos to spool up at the right time for the launch. And that can put some serious stress on an engine.
The motorsports arena, the drag racing, this type of event is really an R&D playground for us. It's a place where we can really take ideas from the R&D lab, put them into application, and test them in the most extreme environments.
Now, part of the strategy in the drag racing event is knowing how many runs to make to get the best possible time, but not take too many runs and possibly damage something, because there are still 2 more events to go. The second day of competition is when the dyno runs start. And if you haven't experienced a diesel dyno competition, you're in for a treat, because these guys push it to the limit. And the results are either record-setting numbers, like this world record 3,336 horsepower run set by Justin Ziegler in his Fire Punk Hot Shots Dodge.
We rely heavily on Nitrous Express for all of our nitrous needs. Lots of big 375 solenoids, and we go through a lot of nitrous on the dyno. So you're really playing a pretty dangerous game with nitrous.
Of course, pushing an engine that hard, that can result in epic fails that can haunt you forever on YouTube. And even though everyone wants to see those high numbers, secretly, I think everybody's hoping for those big explosions. And that can be a real challenge to try and keep these engines from coming apart.
On the dyno, the explosions that happen here have become epic. And every year someone goes big and epically explodes. Nobody wants somebody to do it, but at the same time, it is quite amazing to see, you know.
The third day brings up the third and final event, the sled pull. And this is only fitting because the whole point of a truck is to be able to pull and haul heavy loads. Unfortunately for the competitors, this takes a completely different approach than preparing for a drag race or a dyno run. And nothing will find a weak spot in your axles and suspension or transmission like hooking up to a heavy sled and pulling it at full throttle. So, needless to say, there's a lot that needs to be swapped over in the allotted time to make this happen. So, you'll not only see a lot of hard work going on in the pits, but some strange combinations coming together as well. All with the hopes of getting a successful sled pull. And that's why they call this the ultimate call-out challenge. I mean, you got 3 distinctly different truck events, and only the most well-rounded truck is gonna win. Not the fastest, not the best dyno run, not the best sled pull, but the one that does well in all 3, and then once it's all tallied up, they come out on top. It's a cool event. So, what about you? You think you have a truck that can handle this? Good. Bring it out to the next event. You've been called out.
A successful automotive project takes planning and organization. But instead of using an old tablet or notebook, there's the Gearz Deluxe Project Planning Book. This was designed to help you lay out a project, the parts, the tools, costs, and keep it organized with colored tabs, a pouch for receipts, and even a place to attach photos. If you decide to sell the vehicle, it serves as a complete history of what's been done. If you have a project or plan on starting one, the Gearz Project Planning Book is the best way to lay it out and make it happen. And now it's time for another quick tip.
When it comes to your radiator, most people think it's that big thing that sits in front of the engine, and you throw some coolant in it from time to time and you're good to go. Well, maintenance is important, but there are some indicators that that radiator will give you when it's about to go out. For example, you want to be on the lookout up here for solder or adhesive that has broken loose and is allowing these fins to move around. Also, you want to be looking for some of this green residue. That's a great indicator that there's some antifreeze that's leaking down these seams. And then if you'll notice here in the middle, it's pretty obvious, more green residue. And then here at the bottom, you can see we have rust, which is a great indicator that this thing's about ready to give up the ghost. Now, a lot of people will look at this and go, you know, I'm gonna wait, watch my temperature gauge, and when it goes up, then I'll replace it. Man, don't do this. Because if you wait on your temperature gauge, you're gonna end up broken down on the side of the road. No, when you're doing your regular maintenance, be on the lookout for this stuff and replace the radiator then. That way you don't end up broken down. If you'd like to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.
And now, Paint Tech, brought to you by KBS Coatings. Rust stops here.
You know, with all the talk about barn finds these days, you can tell that a lot of people like to find their projects out in the wild. And because of that, the term barn find has actually expanded to include anything that's been sitting for a while, whether it was in a barn or in a garage or in a shed or out under a tree. It doesn't matter where it was sitting. Everybody knows that one of the first things that goes bad when a vehicle sits is the fuel system. Fortunately, there's carburetors, fuel lines, fuel pumps, all that stuff available for most vehicles. The fuel tank, on the other hand, can be a bit of a problem. Check it out. Since the fuel tank is usually buried up under the vehicle and almost always stored with whole nasty gas in it, it is subject to corrosion on both the inside and the outside. Now, a lot of people's way of thinking on this is, well, if the tank's bad, just get yourself a new one, man. That's great if they're available. But replacement tanks are not always available, especially if you're working on something odd. And a lot of times when you do find a tank, they can be expensive. So there is a solid case for restoring your old tank. So that's what we're going to show you how to do using a KBS fuel tank sealer kit. Now, when most people talk about restoring a tank, they're actually talking about resealing a tank. And that can be a little difficult because it's hard to see inside the tank, see what's going on. So we cut the end off of an old tank so you can see the process from the inside. Now, what happens over time is that a tank can develop rust inside due to condensation and the water content in the gasoline. And all of these seams are especially vulnerable because they hold that moisture. And once that rust starts, it will eventually eat through the metal and you'll end up with a leaky tank. So obviously the first thing to do is drain the tank and remove it. Then pull out any pickup tubes, pumps, filters, or sending units. Next, we'll seal the openings with duct tape and pour in the KBS cleaner. And we'll let it soak. Now, it's important to rotate the tank every 10 minutes or so the cleaner gets on all the surfaces. And take your time here. If the tank has a lot of goo and varnish in it, you may need to let it soak for a day or two to break all that junk loose. Dropping in a piece of chain can help with the process. Just make sure that you can get the chain back out. Then, once you're done, drain and rinse the tank and let it dry. The second step is to etch the surface for adhesion and to neutralize rust. So, we're going to pour this rust blast in and once again roll and tip the tank every few minutes so the whole inner surface gets coated. Okay, once that's done and the tank is rinsed and completely dry, we are ready for step 3, and that is the sealer. And like the others, you just pour it in, then rotate and turn the tank to make sure all the inner surfaces get covered with the sealer. As you can see, it's thick and it covers extremely well, and it's impervious to all fuels and additives. It'll seal pinholes, it stops rust, it'll remain flexible, and it will last indefinitely. The best part is, you don't have to try to hunt down a replacement gas tank.
And now, Coating Tech, brought to you by Jet Hot High Performance Coatings. Unbeatable protection, performance, and service since 1982.
Everybody knows that heat is the enemy of virtually every component under your hood. So it's important to try to keep the heat down as much as possible and the components protected. But that's not that easy because you have the engine and the exhaust system right here in the middle, and that's your major heat source. So there's two schools of thought to try to solve this. One is to get some high temperature spray paint and paint your components, and the other is to use a professional ceramic coating. Now they are different, so let's take a look at the differences between these two approaches. Okay, using a high temperature spray paint is undoubtedly the cheapest and easiest way to go because you just buy a can of paint and spray it on. And you usually have two choices here. You have engine paint, which goes up to about 500 degrees, and then you have your high temperature exhaust style paint that goes up over 1200 degrees. And if you'll notice, a lot of these cans say they have ceramic in them. But that's a lot different than a professional ceramic coating. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. Now, if you spray this paint onto a properly prepped surface, the parts will look good for a while, but there are some drawbacks to the spray can approach. The paint will not lower surface temperatures. The word ceramic on the label just means it's going to be more durable. So heat is still going to be a problem. Also, the paint is eventually going to discolor, fade, and burn off because they're just not able to handle those temperatures. So you're going to need to touch it up on a regular basis. Also, if you're looking for a color besides black, white, gray, or red, it's not going to be easy to find. The professional ceramic coating is a completely different approach. Now, this is a special ceramic composite coating that will reduce radiant heat up to 60%. So that's going to drop temperatures significantly under the hood. Now, the coating won't fade, chip, or burn off, and you can get it in about 60 different colors, so there's a lot of options here. However, the only drawback to a professional coating is that they are more expensive, and you have to send your parts off to a coater to have them done properly. So the question is, which is the best one for you to use? Well, the spray paint is cheap, easy, it looks good for a while. You'll eventually have to touch it up, but it does nothing to drop temperatures under the hood. Then the ceramic coating drops temperatures under the hood. It looks good forever. It's got a lifetime warranty, but it's more expensive. So obviously there is a time and a place to use both of these. And the only way to know when to do that is to understand the difference between the two. You know, one of the first true freedoms you experience as a kid is that first bicycle. Man, it becomes your transportation to the world, or at least the local neighborhood. And in my neighborhood, man, we all had bikes. And we'd stick playing cards in the spokes, and we'd suck on black licorice, make it look like we were big biker dudes. And it was magic. But a bike wasn't just about transportation. No, it became an extension of your personality. And there were all kinds of bikes out there. There were 10 speeds, there were mountain bikes, there were Stingrays, there were BMX bikes, and they all had their strengths and weaknesses. And that's where the idea for the story of the purple bicycle came from. Because just like a bike might wish it had the talents or skills of another bike, so do we sometimes overlook our God-given talents and wish we had somebody else's talents, skills, because they seem to be better than ours. It's a simple lesson, but something we all need to be reminded of from time to time.
And now, Parts Bin.
Everybody knows that the square-bodied Chevy trucks are hot. Long bed, short bed, lifted, lowered, they're all cool. But if you're building one into a cool street cruiser, the big question is always, what wheels do you put on it? And there's been a lot of styles come and go over the years. Some good, some not so good. Well, ironically, Halibrand, the original mag wheel company, has got a solution, and it is called the C10 Sprint wheel. Now, as you can see, these are styled right after the original Sprint wheel with the shouldered windows and the one-piece aluminum design. But there is a difference here. These are available in modern diameters, 19 and 20 inch, and in widths, 8.5 for the front and 10 for the rear. Then they're designed with the right width and back spacing so you can stuff the fattest tire possible onto your 73 through 87 fleet side truck and not have any clearance issues, even if you've lowered the truck. Yeah, now for colors, you can get the original polished aluminum, they have a black powder coat, or they have this new Mag 7. So if you're building a cool square-bodied Chevy truck, you want to slap some retro modern wheels on it, the Halibrand C10 wheel is a good way to go. There was a time when the vent window was the thing to have on a car or truck because you could pop it open and get a nice blast of air into the vehicle. The problem today is when you go to restore those vent windows, because even if you can find the glass and the weather stripping, that doesn't help you much if the frames are rusted or the locks are broken or that kind of thing. That usually meant you had to go to a junkyard. Well, if you own a 73 to 79 Ford truck, you're in luck, because LMC has just come out with a brand new vent window assembly for those trucks. Now check this out. You can see this is the whole shebang. You've got new glass, you've got weather stripping, you've got new chrome locks, everything's in place, everything works. You got the window channel all the way down to the threaded hole. So basically you just pull out your old vent window, slide that one in. And that saves you hours of restoration time on something like this. So if you're finally ready to do something about your vent windows on your classic Ford, LMC is the only place you're going to find those. If there's one thing that modern hot rods need, it's electrical power. Power to run fans and fuel pumps and lights, etc. And all of those high current accessories should be run through a relay to keep from burning things up. But nobody wants a stack of relays on their firewall. Well, that's where the MSD solid state relay block comes in. This has 4 20-amp circuits in a nice tight package for running 4 individual components or accessories, or you can double them up if you need that power. The channels can be activated using power or ground, and it's protected by short circuit and overload protection. Add to that multiple mounting options and minimal wiring hookups, And you'll never reach for a standard relay again when you're hooking up multiple accessories. You'll reach for the MSD solid state relay block. You know, one of the most important accessories that you can put on a truck or a van is a receiver hitch, so you can tow trailers. But one thing that's always been a problem with the receiver hitch is dealing with the pin and cotter pin that holds them in place. I mean, they're hard to get to, and you're always busting your knuckles pulling them in and out, and these pieces are easy to lose. Fortunately, Hitch-Locker has a solution for all this. Their hitch has a retracting pin on each side, so you just pull the latch and pull out the hitch. Check out how this works, man. That is really cool. So to install the hitch, you just pull the latch, slide it in place, and it locks in. So now installing a hitch is a one-hand operation. No more messing with pins or any of that kind of stuff. Now, I know you're looking at this going, yeah, but what about strength? Well, let's take a look inside. The patented internal mechanism is made out of stainless steel to provide the strength and durability that you're going to need. This thing has been tested to 150,000 cycles without failure or issue. So it's going to handle whatever abuse that you can throw at it. The Hitch-Locker is available with a 4 1/4 inch drop, a 2 1/4 inch drop, and with no drop with the option of the 2 different size balls. Now this has a unique center push that allows you to change the ball in just a matter of seconds. So if you're tired of messing with the old rusty pin in your hitch, you are ready for a Hitch-Locker.
What are you working on? Brought to you by Woodward Fabrication, selling quality metalworking equipment since 1966.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Brian, and Brian is in Colorado, and his project is a '68 Dodge Dart. And he said his journey started when he was about 14 years old. He saw an original Hemi Dart and he just went crazy. He knew that was the car he wanted to have. Now, he was already a car guy. He'd been working with his dad in the garage, working on their cars. So this started a trend that continued through his whole life. So now fast forward to 2020, and he was able to find a '68 Dart, not a Hemi, basically just a shell. Take a look at this. And he started working on it with his eldest daughter, Maddie, helping him along the way. Now, here's a picture of Maddie supervising the work, man. Isn't that great? Okay, now he said this is just a budget build in the yard kind of thing. I love this. It's got a stock 5.9 Magnum engine from a junkyard, split monoleaf springs, 3-way adjustable shock so it'll run down the drag strip, Holley EFI, it's got long tube headers, homemade exhaust system, all kinds of other little goodies. Now, he said his hopes is that one day this is a 10-second street and strip car that they can enjoy at the track and they can drive to the events, they can take to shows, and then he can have a lot of fun with Maddie. And he says that one day this car will end up with Maddie, which is such a great project. She is going to be a great little car girl. So to salute such a great project, we're going to give you one of these metal shears from Woodward Fab, so you can cut some metal when you need to. Also, we're going to give you one of these deluxe project planning books so you can keep track of everything that you've done on that project. Then we're going to give you a Gearz t-shirt, and we're going to give you a Holley gift card so you can get some Holley products to help make that car go a little bit faster. And then we're going to give you a stunt double die cast. We're actually going to give that to Maddie so she can play with that. Now, for the rest of you guys, if you want to get in on this and get your project featured on the show, you got to send it to us. Go to our website, go to Gearz Nation, and submit it into What Are You Working On? The website's also the place to find out more information on any products you may have seen on the show, any Gearz merchandise, and how to join Gearz Nation. You can also see Gearz episodes for free on our YouTube channel and become a channel member. That way you get bonus content and you get early access to all the new episodes. Also, don't forget to check us out on Amazon Prime for Gearz and the Gearz Restoration Series. Finally, don't forget to like us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're a radio person, make sure you check out our podcast, Tales of a Gearhead. All right, that wraps it up for us today, which means it is time for you to get out there and start working on a project of your own. But when you do that, make sure you're including somebody, a daughter, a son, a mother, a cousin, a friend, somebody to share the passion with you. All right, we'll see you next time.